What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be doing a bit of a thought experiment and we're going to be proposing the question, what if men dated like women? And hopefully, by the end of this video, I will convince you with 100% certainty that male hypergamy, if men ended up dating like women, it would actually be far superior to the status quo with how things are currently going with female hypergamy. So, anyways, excuse my voice, I'm a little bit sick, but without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, I know most of you guys already know what this concept is, so I'm not going to spend too much time defining it, but for the kids in the back, hypergamy is the tendency to seek relationships with partners who are higher in socioeconomic and physical metrics. So as you can see over here, the way men typically date is very different to the way women date. If you line up 5 guys at random, most women are not going to be attracted to like 80% of those guys. They're probably all gonna want the same 2 or 1 guy, right? But if you look at how men date, men are actually attracted to most women, I would say. So there's an asymmetry between how many men women are attracted to on average and how many women men are attracted to on average. Now, a common misconception that black pillars have is that hypergamy is exclusive to looks, right? It's like, oh, it's all about looks. They only date up in terms of height and physical appearance, which just isn't true. You can easily look at the studies that show that women are much more likely to divorce their partner if they out earn him. So it's actually the case that women date up in terms of looks, in terms of socioeconomic status, and in terms of social status as well. So that's important to keep in mind. Now, let's get into the arguments. Let's get into what would actually happen if all men decided to be hypergamous all of a sudden. If we decided to adopt the exact same mating strategies as women, let's take a look. The first thing is that male hypergamy would pretty much only be based on looks. I think we can all agree that no guy is gonna decide to date up in terms of money or status when it comes to women. It's just not in our nature. Most guys wouldn't even consider it masculine, so it doesn't really make any sense, right? It would literally just be based on looks, which means no woman would be eliminated from the dating pool based on wealth or status. A common misconception is that guys are incels just because of how they look, but it's actually not. If you take a guy who's like a top 1% earner or a guy who's in top 1% status, even if he's not the best looking, or if I would venture to say below average, he would still be getting some women. He definitely would. Whereas with male hypergamy, it would obviously only be based on looks, right? Like no amount of wealth or status is going to compensate. There's no such thing as like beta buxing, but in reverse. Beta buxing only works for men. Beta buxing could never really work for women, unless the guy's just a fucking stud. But men are actually very simple. It's literally just don't be fat and be nice. Like those are the only requirements. As you can see, be like this girl, don't be like that girl. It's not fucking rocket science. It doesn't get simpler than that. And that just means that male hypergamy already off rip would be a lot more forgiving than female hypergamy. If men dated like women, it would still be a lot more forgiving because honestly, the standards men have for women are quite low, dude. Like it doesn't take that much to win in dating as a woman, whereas for men, it takes a lot. It takes a lot. So point number 2 is that male hypergamy would be more fair. If you guys look at the chart on the left, you can see that men rate women on a normal distribution. So it's very fair and evenly spread. Most women are going to be 5s. Some women are going to be above average. Very few women are going to be extremely attractive. And then, the same thing on the other half. Whereas with women, their rating of men is very, very harshly skewed towards the negative, like extremely skewed towards the negative. And what this causes is a very extreme and unforgiving hypergamous nature, a very extreme and unforgiving way of dating up. So, this is what female hypergamy currently looks like. It's like, half the guys off the bat are just eliminated from the dating pool. Like they're not getting anything. The one isn't interested in the 1, 2, or 3. She wants at least a 5, right? And it just goes up and up and up. And it's like, if you're wondering why I didn't match this woman with anyone, it's because when you're at that level, most extremely attractive women are just dating around because no guy can satisfy their hypergamy because they just have access to like all the fucking studs in the world, right? So they can get any guy they want pretty much. This is what happens. Most men get left out. Male hypergamy, on the other hand, would be more fair. So we mapped female hypergamy based on this right here, which is a very true statistic. This is how they rate men on dating apps, but this is also how they generally perceive men. Whereas since male ratings of women are a lot more fair, a lot more realistic, and a lot more evenly spread out, it's not very harshly skewed towards the negative. So what ends up happening is male hypergamy would actually be less hypergamous than female hypergamy. If all men decided to date up, they wouldn't be this delusional. They would not be this delusional. It would look something like this. It would literally look something like this. They'll date up 1 point, 2 points, 1 point, 2 points. And then once you get to average territory, they start to settle for their looks match. Like, at some point, your looks match is going to be attractive, right? If you're average or above average. So you'll be fine with your looks match, a point higher, 2 points higher. But like, okay, this guy's not going to be delusional enough to think he can pull her. It's just not going to happen, right? So this is what male hypergamy looks like. Why is this better? Because it gives more people a chance. If men were hypergamous, it would still be better for women than if women were hypergamous. Because when women are hypergamous, they want these guys, but they never get them. So they end up frustrated, hooking up with guys who end up rejecting them after and just ending up alone, right? Whereas over here, they actually do get long-term relationships. They can actually secure. And obviously, it's not perfect. Like here, there's 4 guys left out. Here, there's probably going to be 1 or 2 girls left out, like the very, very bottom percentage. But it's still better than what's currently going on with like the majority of men getting nothing at all, right? I would argue this model over here looks a lot better than this model over here. Guys, I'm telling you, male hypergamy might actually be the solution to the dating market. And before anyone says, oh, but dude, that's unrealistic. Men are never going to be hypergamous. Men are never going to date like women. Exactly. I'm fully aware of that. But this video is just a thought experiment, okay? I'm not talking about how practical male hypergamy would be. I'm talking about how it would actually be a pretty fucking good solution to the dating market. It's not practical. Most guys are not going to discipline themselves to actually do this. And there's some problems with it. Like, how do you actually know if a girl is your looks match or not, objectively? How do you actually know if you're dating up or not? Some guys are attracted to women who are less attractive than them objectively. So there's a lot of confusion here, but we're just saying, as a general model, this is superior. And we're going to get into some more points, so stay tuned for that. Next up, the math works out better. Okay, think about how many attractive women there are for every Chad. What this causes is very attractive guys having a monopoly on most women, right? If you have like a guy who's extremely rare, exceptionally rare like this guy, he's going to have a monopoly on like 20, 30 women because there's simply not enough of this for every this. Think about how many of this you see in your day-to-day life and how many of this you see in your day-to-day life. I guarantee you see like 20 times more of this girl than you see of this guy. Attractive men are simply a lot more rare than attractive women, which actually means there's enough attractive women to go around for less attractive men. If we're going off pure monogamy, by the way, which I think we can all agree here, a monogamous structure, a monogamous society is better for the world than a polygamous one where one guy gets all the women, right? So if you want monogamy and you're for it, then this should actually be better. Male hypergamy is the way to do it because these attractive women, there's just way more of them than there are attractive men. There's a surplus of them, right? So it only makes sense that they should take one for the team and date down if they actually want a monogamous relationship. Because otherwise, they're just going to end up sharing the same couple of men. And we all know how that turns out. Point number 4, relationship satisfaction. Studies show that men are more satisfied in relationships when they perceive the woman as more attractive than themselves. And they're also less likely to cheat. Let's read this together. Whereas husbands were more satisfied at the beginning of the marriage and remain more satisfied over the next 4 years to the extent that they had an attractive wife, wives were no more or less satisfied initially or over the next 4 years to the extent that they had an attractive husband. Most importantly, a direct test indicated that partner physical attractiveness played a larger role in predicting husband satisfaction than predicting wife satisfaction. Obviously, we can say that women care more about looks now, but caring about looks is deeply embedded in the male psyche. I would argue a lot more than the female psyche. I think this study kind of shows that. And, if we lived in a model where men were hypergamous instead, more men would be dating more attractive women, which means overall relationship satisfaction. So male hypergamy isn't just better for men. I'm making the argument here that it's better for both genders. Okay, don't forget that. Number 5, would force unattractive women to compete. The problem right now with the current way of dating, which is like, men just completely dumpster diving because the dating market's really competitive, is that women never face natural selection, all right? They just never face it. They never have to work to get a mate. They never have to do anything, be interesting, be kind, be feminine. But if men were hypergamous, if men only insisted on dating across or up, this would force women to compete for mates in other ways, whether it be through kindness, femininity, acts of service, love, whatever the case may be, they would actually have to put on their best personalities. Because right now, what happens is you have unattractive girls who are like threes and fours who act in a way that you think only a 10 could get away with, but they actually are getting away with it because of hypergamy, because of how extreme hypergamy is. There's actually guys tolerating that behavior from threes and fours and dumpster diving to that level. So it's just brutal, but this would eliminate that problem. Number six, I don't know why it says five there, that should be six, would increase drive and competition among men. Right now, we're in a situation where more and more young guys are rot maxing. And you know why they're rot maxing? Because they feel like the reward isn't worth the effort. Why would I have to learn all this game, work really hard, learn a skill, become a millionaire, looks max, just to end up with a girl who's probably not even going to be my looks match? Like, why do I, as a six, have to put in all that work just to get lucky enough to get a four or a five? It just doesn't sound like a very good deal. And that's why I actually kind of empathize with dudes who are rot maxing. It's like, yeah, dude, no one fucking wants to put in all that work for a bad deal. I get it. But if men knew they were guaranteed at least a looks match for being average, right? You're a 5 out of 10. If you put in some work, you'll at least get a 5 or a 6. And if they wanted hotter girls, maybe you could leverage other things like status or money or whatever. This would actually be a big incentive for them to work hard and contribute and compete and become better men. But right now, there's just really no incentive to do that because of the brutal hypergamous structure of society. So, that's another point. Number six, fem cells would still barely exist, right? I know they currently don't exist, like definitely not, but in a world where men were hypergamous, fem cells would still not exist. People think, oh, but if men are hypergamous, then the bottom percentage of women would be incels. But no, that's not actually how it works. Because of female hypergamy, practically 80% of men are incels or have been incels at some point in their lives. But male hypergamy would be way more fair if you refer to point two. I already explained why. And only the bottom percentiles of women, which are around probably 10 to 20%, would struggle. And I wouldn't even say they'd be true femcells. They would be like femcells that would have to work to get a relationship. So, I just think male hypergamy is the lesser of two evils. Like, yeah, femcells are probably going to exist if we have this model, but it's still better. It's still better. Number seven, more families, less hookup culture. I don't see anyone talking about this much, but the way female hypergamy works now leads guys to only want to hook up because you're only getting girls who are less attractive than you. And be honest with yourself. If she was as attractive as you or more attractive, you'd probably be thinking about relationships and like actually marriage. But the fact that most guys are dumpster diving and struggling to find something quality makes them less likely to start families and more likely to hook up, which is also bad for the women who get used by these guys as sleepers, but then the guy doesn't actually commit to them. So, Chads are dumpster diving for fives and six doesn't mean they're going to start families with them. If we have a male hypergamous structure, more dudes are going to be willing to start families with women, and more women are going to be willing to start families with dudes, because we all know when it comes to the long term, women don't really care that much about looks. They're more lenient in that regard. So that's also something to keep in mind. And lastly, point number 8, more stable dating environment. Right now, men are competing and they're evolving and trying to adapt to female hypergamy. As more men adapt, as more men looks max, as more men acquire status and money, the threshold is only going to go higher and higher and higher, and hypergamy is only going to grow stricter and stricter and stricter. It's going to eliminate more men from the dating pool. We've already seen what social media has done to how extreme hypergamy is. It's only going to get worse. So this pattern is only going to get more brutal. Male hypergamy would not grow more extreme. It would actually remain pretty stable. So that's another benefit to it. Anyways, guys, that's point number 8. Now, I know a common objection to what I'm saying here is like people are going to go, you can't force women to date men they're not attracted to. But isn't that exactly what's happening now? Because of female hypergamy, men are almost forced to date and deal with women they're not attracted to because of their biological urges and because they want to start families and whatever. So this is almost putting women in that same position, but in a less extreme way. Either you have to deal with your looks match or guys who are slightly less attractive than you, or you can just stay single for life. No one's really forcing you to do anything. So it's your biological clock against your desire for Chad. Are you going to hold out and be single for life, or are you just going to succumb and date your looks match and get on with your life? So this is my reasoning for why male hypergamy is superior to female hypergamy in every way. I've never seen anyone make a video like this, so make sure you subscribe for the creative idea. I help guys transform their dating lives, go out there and do the best they can in the current dating climate. So if you're interested in that, check the link in the description. I'm out.